Griffin the Griffin by BlackWing. Chapter 92. Breaking the Rules. Trixie's point of view. The eating area was, quite simply, a fire pit with some rocks to sit on. Above the pit was a roasted Pegasus, wings stretched out so they'd cook better. It was glazed with a golden brown and covered in some kind of unknown spice, and while I was completely nauseated by the sight, my other half's tongue was hanging out of its mouth.
Trixie, are you okay?
Quiet, trying not to think about cannibalism, please. Oh, well, they're eating a Pegasus. At least they had the decency to kill him first. Oh, that's just nasty. They're fighting over who gets to eat the brain. I simply sat on a rock with my paw under my chin, while the rest gorged themselves and got drunk on piss water. Not literally piss water, but some kind of terrible slag they had the audacity to call booze. At the same time, I was struggling between not digging in myself and also not looking like I was avoiding it. Well, until the dog from before bumped into me again. I recognized him as this body's friend, who tends to tease but is at the same time worried about the old mutt.
No hungry? Me?
He asked. I simply nodded and then browsed through the dog's memories for anything else I could find. He's a grandfather to 7 pups, 3 of which died. His mate, not really wife since they didn't have a marriage in this den. More like you did well and you could pick a female and rut her for a night till you get satisfied. But in truth, they all belong to Alpha. Beside the point. She didn't like the conditions very much, so she got fed to the captive dragon, who privately apologized. She didn't like the position she was in, but it was either that or die from hunger. Alright, I know what I'm going to do, as soon as they're all passed out.
Yes, that too.
The dog piped up from the back of my mind.
Free dragon is kind. Friend, I old.
You want me to let the dragon out and rip its place apart?
So tired. No pain more. Me quick die.
You really have given up on life, haven't you?
Yes. Save pups.
Don't you worry about that. Once your alpha has kicked the bucket, everyone who doesn't fight is going to marble pillars to see if they can teach some old dogs new tricks.
Then, me peace. Trixie?
Oh, huh? Gilda?
Are you alright?
Yeah, A single tear fell from my eye. I mean, I have someone in my head that just wants to die and get it over with, but at the same time is happy because we're taking care of his people once the oppressor is out of the way. Yeah, I'm good. I walked through the corridors until I came across the dragon's prison chamber. Then I saw him, all chained up, the skin on his wings completely missing, and one of his eyes torn out. Only half his teeth had been declawed, and large scars all over his, or rather her, body where the scales had grown over top, and were jutting out at odd angles. She was lying alone in the dark, head on her claws and weeping. I searched the dog's memories. His name, Muro, and the dragon, Nalia.
Nalia.
My voice was gruff and low. Muro? Her voice, despite being a rather large dragon, was quiet. It was soft and almost silken, like she was blessing the air itself when she spoke.
Yes, but not just him.
I could finally stop using the broken speech that the rest of the dogs did, as there were none around.
Who? Don't worry about that right now. Right now, how'd you like to have an alpha for dinner?
Do not jest, Miro. I know that... How did you get the keys?
She asked when she saw me twirling the key ring around a claw.
I told you, it's not just Miro in here. They all got drunk to celebrate turning back the Griffin pirates, while I stayed sober. So nobody questioned me when I slipped out and didn't give the alpha any message. Miro wants to help you. So does Griffin, and so do I. But to do that, we're going to need your help as well.
I've heard tales of the Dragonbane and his cursed crew. What would you have of me?
I climbed up on her back, up to her neck, and unlocked the giant collar that restrained her, followed by the muzzle that kept her from opening her mouth more than halfway and biting off the restraints, which, after it was removed, was exactly what she did.
Just follow my lead.
Gilda's point of view. All right, Gilda, I'm ready on my end. Time to say hello again.
Trixie said finally. You heard the lady. Descend. Prepare the ground troops. I yelled to the rest of the crew, despite the fact that they were already prepared. Steelhorn brought the ship down out of the clouds again, just like the first time. Several dogs on top of the hill who were inspecting the remains of their artillery began running to the shelter of the warren, only to be picked off by our sharpshooters. We disembarked and landed near the entrance of the cave, and looking in, we could see that the door was still closed. Second sight, send a message to the ship. Tell Trixie we're ready on our end. I told my rider.
Got it.
He closed his eyes, his horn glowed, and then it faded.
She says she's starting right now. Trixie's point of view.
Nalia, it's time. Let's go.
She began slowly creeping through the tunnels, trying not to make a sound, while I rode on her back. When we arrived at the door, the dogs began backing up fearfully, and the others demanded to know what was happening.
Leader say pirates back. Let dragon have. Open door.
When enemy come, close door and hide. No open.
You question Alpha, you die when come. You open door.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to make a convincing argument when you have to speak in broken equestrian? It took everything I had to not start speaking normally, but then that would have blown my cover. After thinking about it for a little, they finally decided to open it. The dogs began cranking the large spoke wheels that opened and shut the door, and as they did, the massive iron slabs began sliding outwards, a crack of light appearing at the end of the tunnel. The dogs all looked surprised to see Gilda and the rest standing right there with sinister smirks on their face. The guards didn't have time to react before they were gunned down, their leader and studded armor being no match for the rifles and bows. Realizing what happened, they turned to begin fighting, as well as close the gate again, but it was too late. Nalia torched the dogs by the wheels, as well as all along the pathways overlooking the gully, where the crew would enter. Nobody flanking fire on our watch. Nalia then began burning the other dogs on the ground and smashing them, clearing the way for the crews, but not before a shot came from below, passed right through her stream of fire, and hit me in the neck. It wasn't supposed to be this way. It was supposed to be a quick death. Peaceful, not bleeding out laying in the dirt. I'm sorry.
No care. Just win.
For the next couple of minutes, nothing but silence as his vital essence slowly drained out. Finally, right at the end,
At least I no die alone. You here?
At that, he passed on. I could no longer feel his presence in my mind, nor sense his body. While the battle raged on below, I sat on board the ship and wept. Gilda's point of view.
Miro!
The red dragon raged as its rider took an arrow to the neck. It began throwing fire all over the dogs who were fighting, as well as those who had taken to trying to close the gate. Slowly the iron slabs started moving inwards again, which would trap half of us inside and lock the rest out. The wounded dragon couldn't keep up, so instead of burning them, it ran and wedged itself between the doors as the dogs trained so close to them. She looked straight at me with her one eye.
Go! I will hold the door!
She boomed as the rest of our foes slipped inside, running the hounds down as they tried to fight as they fled. That was when the Alpha came. What is the meaning of you? He glared right at me. His dogs winced and backed away, our foes pulling back as well in order to stay out of the Alpha's reach. To say he was angry would be an understatement. His face was bright red, even through the fur, and he had smoke coming from his ears. I will kill you! Fat chance, Fido. I slung my bow over my back and drew my short sword and shield. Both the new bug zapper design Griff had come up with, which second sight would keep charged from my back as he gave support. Ingus! I felt the blade hum in my claws, the shield as well, as I flapped my wings to take a bipedal stance, with my back hunched over so my rider could still see and to give better balance. My opponent was wielding a very large club, which made a steel head but had a wood handle. Shock wouldn't work well on it, so I figured I'd be a little creative with the shield. Ingus, I said again. Sword buzzed with electricity, while the shield heated up, and with my rubber gloves protecting me from both zaps and burns. No more talk! Fight!
couldn't agree more. We both dove at one another, me leading with my shield, the sword held back in stabbing position, while he did a wide overhead swing with his club towards my shield, and a punch towards my blade arm. His club connected, and at that moment I stabbed, only for him to grab the blade with his empty paw and pull it from me, cutting himself in the process. Not yet. He brought his leg forward and kicked me in the stomach, causing me to double over before bringing the club to my beak. I felt a crack as I was flung to my back, dropping the shield. Fuck, they're a lot tougher. That's a broken jaw for sure. There, my shield, it's on the ground. Come on. Closer. Closer. Now!
Angus!
My rider said as the dog stood over the shield. All the magic I had been pouring into it released at once, making my shield into a flaming landmine. It sent a pillar of flame straight up between his legs, right into his testicles. He began howling in pain. Now it's time for me to use what I learned from Griff about molecular theory. He was standing there, clutching his jewels with my sword opposite. The unicorn lifted it with telekinesis. The blade skidded forward from the ground, across, then lifted up of its own accord and stabbed him in the back, followed by an ingus from my rider, which sent a long bolt of lightning straight from his horn to my blade, right through the heart. All the other dogs stood there, watching as their leader, slightly shocked and singed, fell over onto his back, driving the blade just sticking out of his back all the way in. If he wasn't dead when the bolt hit him, he was now. I picked myself up and, feeling my jaw, realized it was indeed broken, but not too badly. Most of the pain from that came from the fact that it was also dislocated. My rider looked quite smug, having finished off the alpha on his own with the setup I gave him. All the other hounds just looked stunned. I motioned to the back line, where a medic pony came forward, her horn glowing and both hooves on my jaw, snapping it back in place and healing it at the same time. I opened it and closed it experimentally a couple times, nodded a quick thanks, and then turned to face the crowd. Listen up! You've lost! Your alpha is dead and we killed him! Your captive dragon has been set free, and unless you all want to become lunch, I suggest you listen closely. For the past who knows how long you've been at war with marble pillars. No longer. With your leader's death, the war is over, and this war is done. You're all going to come with us. We're going to bring you to your enemy's doorstep so they can re-educate on how to be proper diamond dogs. You will finally have peace and prosperity. No more slaves, no more hunger or fear. Anyone who wants this kind life can follow us. Those who don't want redemption can instead pay for their crimes with their lives. I turned back to the crew. Round 'em up, boys, you know the drill. At this point it was pretty easy. They had all been afraid of their alpha, and did what he wanted out of fear. Now that we put him 6 feet underground, they didn't fear him anymore. They feared us. And when we told them that we weren't going to hurt them but give them better lives, still under the guidance of their own kind, well, they may have thrown a bit of a party while they marched, following our ship back to civilization. They were quite nervous standing at the gateway of their former enemies, but when they were welcomed openly, given food, medical treatment, and such, by both Marble Pillars and our crew, their trepidation vanished, just like that. Some cried, some danced, some hugged their families. Nalia was brought with, marching alongside the dogs so she could keep her eye on them, and, on reaching their destination, she was given medical treatment as well. As for Trixie...
Trixie's point of view.
Nalia? It's me. You don't know the voice, but I'm the one who was with Muro.
I see.
I did something bad in taking his freedom away. And at the end of all, you know what he did? Another tear fell from my face. He thanked me. I took control of his body, and he thanked me for giving him the strength to do what he had always been afraid to. He thanked me for giving his death meaning by freeing his people, and he thanked me for being next to him in his mind when he died so he wasn't alone. I took everything away from him, and he fucking thanked me. Am I a horrible person?
It sounds as though you gave him a lot more than you took away. To answer your question, yes, you are a horrible pony. But at the same time, you are far less horrible than those who did this.
She showed all her wounds.
To me. At one point I was starving, and the Alpha fed to me Muro's family. The other option would have been to starve to death, and I truly regretted what I did. And he forgave me. Tell me, do you regret doing what you did?
I don't regret saving all of you, but I do regret the way I did it. I never want to do that again.
Then I'm sure he forgives you as well. I have lived a long time, and I know we must sometimes do things we do not like, things that we hate and we know are wrong, just to keep living. Allow them to haunt you, so that you will never forget and never fall to corruption. One who kills for a good reason but regrets it will never for a bad reason.
Thank you.
Now go. I'm sure you have other things that require your attention, one of which is rest. You and Miro have had a long day, and he is resting while you still linger in the waking world.
Griffin's point of view.
Lying in bed, I was going over a new way to use a couple spells I knew, but couldn't test it out while I was in bed. It was also one of those things I just wanted to try myself, as I couldn't have Gilda running off to try every new thing I come up with. After all, she's got a ship to run. It was at this point Trixie came bursting in, walking right up to my bed and put her head right on my chest. Never again, Griff. We won the fight, only lost a couple of our own, and hardly killed any of the dogs, gained a new ally, as well as freed an entire pack as well as their slaves, many of which have already expressed their desire to join the crew. This was a huge success, and I never want to do what I did ever again. When you become captain again, please don't make me... I rubbed her head with my claw. I won't, Trixie. I won't. I don't know what happened inside her head. I don't think I ever will. And I'm not sure I even want to know. But if it tore her up this much, I can't make her do it again. She took someone else's mind and made their body her plaything. She had access to every aspect of their being and probably saw a good portion of their life, only to have them die and be ripped away. You become so intimately familiar with the one you dominate, you could almost call them your friend. And knowing that you've given them a death sentence is more than most can take. After all, Trixie is still a pony. An incredibly violent, angry pony, but a pony nonetheless. And this time, we pushed her past where she would already be able to go. I don't know if she'll ever feel the same afterwards. She'll recover and get back to normal, but inside, she'll always be a little bit different from now on. She'll have that sense of longing for the one she took, an empty spot in her heart that she can never fill.